Good morning, everyone. Thank you for choosing to be here this Friday morning. Over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we will discuss and try to understand the ever-changing nature of work and workplaces. There are various factors that determine the changes. Most important or prominent among them is technology and technological shifts. And the current buzzword is artificial intelligence. AI brings with it apprehensions of displacing jobs, but at the same time, it gives hopes about new possibilities and innovations. The nature of this discussion would be a bit of forecasting. Yes, I know, forecasting brings with it certain risks, but lucky we have three eminent panelists who will make the process and the discussion more informed. At the end of this discussion, we would hopefully look at how work and workplaces would adapt to an AI era and how Bangalore can be the fulcrum of that change. Thank you, Sharath, Manish, and Aparna. If I could start with you, Manish. At the recent AI summit, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, when he was talking about the future of work, when he was talking about the future of work, he said, and I'm quoting him, he said, history has shown that work does not disappear due to technology. Its nature changes and new types of jobs are created. Could you weigh in on that?
I think that's been true historically. I think whenever through the Industrial Revolution or even through the Information Revolution, that has been true. I think it's too early to comment on AI for two reasons. One is we don't know whether AI makes superstars uncatchable or it brings the less skilled person to the median. Right?
Okay.
I think that it's, a good plumber, a good barbender, a good mason, a good electrician is 4 times better than a bad one.
Okay.
But a good software programmer is 100 times better than a bad software programmer. A good investment manager is 200 times better than a bad investment manager, and a good CEO is 500 times better than a bad CEO. So I think the public finance implications are aside, the impact on jobs of higher inequality because of a winner-take-all in skills is what has started happening. And it happened a long time ago in movies. It happened a long time ago in sport, right? The top 5 sports people take away 90% of IPL bids, right? Movies, the best Amitabh Bachchan used to get paid 100 times better than the other guy. But now I think it's impacting normal jobs too. And the second implication, I think, which we don't know is whether AI is good at productivity or it's good at creativity, right? I mean, will it write Pakiza or Shawshank Redemption, or will it write Singham 7 or Fast and Furious 15? It'll probably write Fast and Furious 15 today, but will it write Shawshank Redemption or Pakiza or Mughal-e-Azam? It's unclear. If it's in chess, no human being can beat AI anymore for the last 15 years, because chess is a finite game. But creativity may be an infinite game, but there are lots of people whom I respect who say, no, 5 years, 10 years from now, it actually will write Shawshank Redemption. It will write a novel like War and Peace. So if both those happen, if superstars become uncatchable, and if AI becomes good at creativity, not just productivity, then I think we have huge public finance implications for labor markets, besides corporate implications and individual implications.
Sharath, could you just weigh in on that as well? How do you look at it, one, from the government perspective, how would a government look at this challenge?
I think if you talk about what the government is doing, the government is made up out of representatives of the people. There are diverse geographical representations. There are diverse age representations. So I think if you ask about the government and how savvy the government is with AI, it is a spectrum.
Okay.
So you'll find people who are completely clued up about AI, what kind of implications it has with respect to data, citizens' information and security, what it has to do with confidentiality. There are a lot of people who are clued up with it. What the government, and especially the state of Karnataka, we've always been at the forefront. We've always been pioneers with technology adoption. I think that is clear, and the Chief Minister's speech has also amply shed light upon what Bangalore has done. So to that extent, if you look at what we've done, many of our programs, if you look at Sakala, Kutumba, Bhumi, Kaveri, I can reel off 1,000 applications which the government has been the first in the country in tech adoption. And I think even in AI, the government is moving towards the direction of AI and AI adoption. I think, as we know, we are working quite closely with Facebook as well. So the government is doing its part, its role as to what needs to be done with respect to artificial intelligence. If you ask me about does it kill jobs, does it take away jobs? No, I think it definitely will transform jobs. I think what we are seeing with AI, I may be wrong, I can be corrected, is similar to what we saw with the dot-com boom, right? So a lot of people are very excited about what AI can do, but I think till we come to a situation where we figure out how AI is to be used and how AI is going to evolve, it'll possibly take us another few years to come to that kind of a situation. But irrespective of whatever happens, in today's world, I think one thing is clear, data is king. And with data being king, there is no one like AI who can crunch through data.
Okay.
And I think AI for good and AI for processing of large amounts of data is something which for the government works really well, because if you talk about defining policies, programs, crunching numbers, finding who beneficiaries are, how to deliver it, I think this could be something where AI could be transformative for government and government's application of technology. So I'm quite optimistic about what AI can do. I think there will be a big shift in jobs. I don't see it as job displacement. I think the government's role will be to figure out how we upskill, reskill, unlearn, relearn, everything which we've learned over the past few years to make it more relevant to what is going to be coming up in the next term. Is the system going to be more brutal? Is the system going to be a lot harsher in the light of AI? Possibly, I do agree with what Manish sir said. We are all living, I mean, as a politician, if I can say, it is a winner-take-all field as well. So you win by one vote, you win by 10,000 votes. It's not the percentage which matters, it's a single vote which matters. So I think that kind of a more winner-take-all paradigm is something which is going to be shifting. So in that extent, I think as much as possible, if it is possible, our education systems should focus towards a more building up an emotional quotient within our children, within our engineers, within our employment workforce. So we do inculcate a feeling of cooperation rather than a ruthless capitalistic pursuit of individual goals.
You touched upon two important things. One is data and data protection, and the other is how you go about without being ruthless when it comes to AI adoption. I'll come to you. I'll come back to data, of course, but Aparna, if I could ask you, how much is AI a factor when when companies are hiring employees, both from the company standpoint and what you look in an employee? How much is AI a part of it, or is it just at the very nascent stage? What are your views?
Namaskara, ellarigu, and thank you so much for inviting me, and proud to be a part of this panel. Very interesting question. But here is what AI, I mean, we've had ATS tools and all of it for some time now. It's not something that we have not used. I'm sure Manish would agree with me because he has started TeamLease way back. But still, however much, you have an ATS tool, there are certain things that we as human beings will have to do, be it in HR or be it in technology. That's one. But yes, it can help us, but you can't completely depend on it, because from what I've seen and what I've heard, biases are still there. I'm not too sure if we will ever get over our own biases as human beings. AI is fed by us. The data is fed by us. It doesn't capture data by itself. So, having said that, I would say it's a 50-50. You can't just rely on it. You need to get your own human perspective when you're hiring. That is what I would definitely, say, and that's what we do today.
If I could just add, maybe it's too early to actually come to an informed conclusion or a statement at it, but I would like to probe it. While you're hiring or when companies are hiring, has the use of AI brought down the number of employees you look at or the skill sets that you look at? Is it more now leaning towards, if I know AI or I know programming in AI, do I stand a better chance? That's one. The second thing is, if earlier a company were to hire, say, 10 employees, now, because of AI technology and the use of it in different applications, I might not need 10, I might need about 5 or 6. Is that a trend you're seeing, or is it much that's being...
It's too early to say, is what I would say. While yes, there have been proclaims, and we do hear people, be it Sundar Pichai and others who are saying that AI is going to get there and stuff like that. But having said that, you still need humans to even process that. Repetitive tasks is what AI can help us do better. But creativity strategy is something we need to do. That can't be done. Having said that, the human touch, the empathy, I am sure 100%, even if we go down 10 years, 20 years from now, that is something only we can bring and not the AI. I'm a strong believer of that.
Reassuring as it sounds, let me just come to you, Manish.
This is the HR speaking, and I think I'll continue to say that.
Manish, I'll just come to you. I'm just taking from what Sharath had just mentioned about how we should oversee the models in which we are actually creating AI in. Would you think about a proprietary AI model development which India should follow, or is it more a democratic way in which we should do it? When I'm talking about proprietary, it's within a certain establishments or private companies which have it or which lead the race and the innovation to it, or should we do it like what we did over here in UPI and other technologies?
I don't think we should make that decision. One of India's tragedies is 100 times in my life by bureaucrats I have been asked, who allowed you to do this? Right? By definition, innovation is permissionless, right? So let's not try and be too prescriptive about where we go. Innovation comes from a number of statistically independent, genetically diverse tribes. In India, that has not happened because we've had a mentality of prohibited till permitted. We've had a mentality of show me the person, I'll show you the rule. I mean, many people may think that DeepSeek is a deep fake, but it isn't. And I think it's important to recognize that before DeepSeek came, the Americans were fortifying their monopoly by saying that you need $100 billion to create a large language model. I'm a little sad that somebody from India didn't challenge that blatant self-interest, which was masquerading as don't even bother because we have billions of dollars, while I think we can. So I think we don't have to make the choice of proprietary versus open. Obviously, I think India's DPI, Digital Public Infrastructure, is built on open architecture, which is why payments are close to free in India, while in the US, payments cost 4 to 5%, right? So I think we also don't know whether AI will be like search, where Google is 99% of search, or it'll be like WhatsApp, where there's just one winner again. I think there are a lot of thoughtful people who suggest that AI will not be winner take all. Because models can be used to train models, like DeepSeek did, right? Distillation is an innovation in some sense, but distillation, its application in DeepSeek is an innovation, but distillation has been around for a long time, right? I mean, and it's kind of rich for AI to say, for OpenAI to say that DeepSeek, copied me, because anyway, OpenAI stole everybody's data off the internet anyway. So I think we don't have to make that decision at this point. We should have many horses in the race. I think DeepSeek has reminded us that, what Voltaire used to say about strategy, right? God is not on the side of the biggest armies, but the best shots. So the biggest armies is what the Americans were trying to tell us. But I think it's the best shot. So let's just be open architecture at a regulatory level. Let's be open architecture in terms of what we prohibit. And just let 1,000 flowers bloom and make the best sort of flower win.
Sharath, do you subscribe to that view that it becomes an open architecture? Is that the best way to go about with it?
I think with AI being open architecture, I think this is the most democratic approach you can have towards innovation. I think as what Manish was saying, the more you go towards having private particular models, right? So the tendency to have walled gardens, protected fortresses is going to be more and more. So I think having a open source where more people have access to it, more people can play with it, more people can interact with it, more people can question it, push its limits, is always going to be something which is going to be beneficial. I think one thing which immediately struck me as soon as, let's say, DeepSeek came out, is if this is what China is willing to show us, what is it that they've made in the background which they are not showing us, which was honestly the most scary thing. So if you can make something 10 times cheaper in terms of both computation and in terms of building it up, what else do they have that they are not showing us? What else do they have that they're not disclosing to us? So I think it's high time that we move at a very quick rate, at a very fast rate. We make it democratic, we make it as open source as possible, and we try to catch up and see if we can bring down the numbers from, let's say, 10x to 20x, 30x, so that what looked like it was going to be, AI was going to be very centralized, becomes more decentralized. And if you look at it from a government perspective or from a perspective of public interest, we want things to be democratic. So to take away the winner take all, or to ensure that there is no disparity regionally, disparity culturally and disparity economically, we want to make sure that the models are as open source as possible. Proprietary models really benefit very few individuals, so open source would be what the government would want to go towards.
Now, when we look at open source or we make it democratic, one thing that is missing in the whole puzzle is data protection laws. How do you think that plays, or the lack of good data protection laws? Or we are in the process of evolving it. What should we be more fast about it? How do we go about it? This is a moving target we are actually focusing on. How do you look at it?
If you ask me about data protection, I see data protection as being two-pronged. One is, I think, if you ask me, the kind of awareness which the common Indian citizen has about data and data protection at this point is, I would, at the cost of sounding rude, say it's non-existent, right? You call up someone and ask him for his Aadhaar number, he'll share it. You ask him for his OTP, he'll give it to you. Addresses are known. So I think the first step towards data protection or data security laws is education. I think we need to go really hardcore, really hard from a very young age. I would say starting off at class 3, class 4, primary levels, bringing in an education about what data is, data security is. I think it should start from there, and then taking it up to, let's say, the higher levels. With respect to overall data security laws, one thing I would say is that we've been very conservative with the way we've been treating data in the government. So with respect to sharing it, making it available, a lot of it, which is in hard format, is being converted into digital formats. But even the digital formats are being conserved. The government is being conservative about how it treats data. I think just recently, e-governance created a model called e-Sahamiti, which means to take permission from interdepartmental data exchanges. So people who are beneficiaries from one particular department sharing data with another department about what benefits are available. I think the government is very careful about how it's treating this data, and the government has been quite conservative about how it is treating this data, which I think for the public is generally a good thing.
Manish, just to add on to that one, just take it forward. How do companies invest, or companies, institutions, even the state invest in something that is evolving as we move ahead, as we play catch up with it, it's evolving. How do you invest in something like that? How do you make a plan, lead a goal towards it?
I mean, my view of privacy is a little different. Privacy should be left to the individuals. If individuals choose to exchange their data
but for that, we need informed individuals. So as you were saying, you have
our people aren't that stupid. Yes, there is some digital arrest going on, but it's a very small number. And, you know, as the word gets out, it's coming down. I think the Supreme Court's decision on Aadhaar slowed down the use of Aadhaar for many innovations in job markets. Yes, Aadhaar has been used to deduplicate below poverty line lists. I think Aadhaar has done a great job. But I think a lot of poor people, there are three problems in the labor market, right? Matching, which is connecting demand to supply, mismatch, which is repairing supply for demand, and pipeline, which is preparing supply for demand. I think many of them have been slowed down because of the Supreme Court's decision that individuals are not capable of making their decision. As long as consent is there, yes, informed consent is something we should aspire to, but it's a thorn in the flesh. It's not a dagger in our heart. It's a thorn in our flesh. It'll always be there. Some problems, idealism, if it's 99% working, let's try and get it to the last one. But so I think that India, because of our digital public infrastructure, has a unique infrastructure to leapfrog many of the problems. It hasn't even been applied yet to social security. Okay. Forget about being applied to skills. Forget it being applied to job searches. In a world of AI, ML, I think a lot of people in Dhanbad or Kanpur or Lucknow would be willing to give up their privacy for a job in Bangalore. We should let them do that. If we're going to say we're not going to, we have text-based search, you upload your resume, I think that's being unfair to them. So I think privacy is a really important point. I think India has struck the right balance right now. We have found the Madhyam Marg. We should stay on this, but we shouldn't let the ayatollahs of privacy run our lives. Let's leave individual freedom. We value political freedom. We didn't value economic freedom. We should recognize that both of them come from individual freedom.
From what we have discussed so far, how do you see Bangalore with its IT base and tech sector fit into this? Aparna, could you go ahead? Does it have an advantage in that sense?
Of course, there is an advantage, but then just taking on the IT security and all of it, I would say yes, it's important. Completely agree with you that it should start from school, but I think we should also help our elders understand that, because today's generation, the Gen Zs, they have an information overload. I know I didn't have when I was that age, and definitely our elders do not have it today. So can we ensure that, I think we are getting there, otherwise I don't see the digital scam and all of that happens today for the elders where they lose money. Yes, I've been also a victim of it, but then thankfully because I didn't share or whatever, it didn't happen. But how many of them can do that, right? But then having said that, coming back to your question, Viju.
Just before that, since you mentioned about education, do all of you think that exposure to tech and AI should start at an elementary level?
It happens either ways. How are we going to stop that?
In the formal education system, should that, like an example that I'm giving, I don't think it's the best example, but still Indonesia has started coding for third grade students.
Aren't we putting too much of pressure there?
Okay.
I would say I enjoyed my childhood, right? Till I finished college, I know I had a good time. But today's generation, they are constantly under pressure. That's what I look at it, right? So why are we spoiling them? If they want to pick it up, it's their choice.
Should the option be there?
Yes, the option can be there, but it can't be at the third grade. Definitely not the third grade. I don't agree. As a mother, I would never do that.
Okay, I could just chip in. If you ask me where there is most disparity in this country, I would say it's not in wealth, it's not in food, it's not in assets, it's in education. So you've got education systems which start off at SSLC in a rural background, in a rural village, all the way up to ICSE, CPSE, IB, Harvard, IB, Cambridge, whatever. So with that kind of a disparity in education, you tell me where you're going to start digital education. So if you ask me for my kids, I think my daughter uses Copilot more than I do. Okay. So are they on AI already? Yes, they are on AI already. But if you ask me, is this getting through to a child who is studying in a village school in Koppal? Possibly not. Is it unfair? Yes. Should it be started immediately? I feel it should be, the government should take steps and the government should move towards how we can get in these kind of digital learning tools. I wouldn't call it coding. I wouldn't call it computer literacy. I would just say digital tools, right? Copilot is not, she's not coding, but she can get access to questions, figure things out. So these kind of digital learning aids, children should be exposed to it from as early an age as possible, because this is inevitable. You're going to grow up in this world. You're going to have to use it. So
that's exposure. What I was talking about was, should we make them part of developing it? In that sense, exposure. See, I would think of Copilot much as what maybe 15 or 20 years ago Google was for us, search. So now Copilot and much of what you use, Gemini or others, you're being a consumer at that end over there. Should you also be a person who are a part of developing it? Should we actually focus on that way?
I think it's going to be an evolutionary thing, right? Unless you're exposed to it, you're comfortable interacting with technology, unless you're comfortable querying what already exists, then you learn what you've got to build. So first exposure, subsequently build, but I would say at least start exposing. Okay. So once you start exposing at a certain age, then you can start to try to get them to build these kind of models as well. Childhoods are gone, Maidans are gone, Bavis and Tottis are gone. You can, if you want to swim, you've got to come to JW. If you've got to play cricket, you've got to go to InSports. So all that is a thing of the past, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
So I think childhoods have been robbed, and at that risk, technology, they have to get exposed, they have to interact and develop maybe in the future.
I'll just add to that.
I want to disagree with both of them, because nostalgia is usually amnesia. There was no golden age of childhood. We had different problems. In fact, that's why I always disagree with HR people who like to talk about Gen Z or Gen X or millennium kids. There's no difference. Every childhood is difficult. You're finding your identity. You don't know what you want to do. Every childhood is difficult. It was difficult in the 1800s. It was difficult in the 1900s. Is the anxious generation, as Jonathan Haidt called, purely a child of the smartphones? I'm not sure. Yes, smartphones are something else, but we had other problems. So I would say that the question is the double standard which I have for my 2 kids and the 2 lakh kids who come to me for a job every month. My 2 kids chose their parents wisely. They are studying liberal arts. They have a different path. They have a different opening balance. The 2 lakh kids who come to me for a job, we hire only 10,000 of them every month, don't have that opening balance. The infrastructure of opportunity, as he mentioned, in India is broken. So I think for them, this technology is a huge enabling force. While I am worried about the anxiety on my 2 kids, I may agree with Jonathan Haidt that you probably shouldn't give them smartphones till you're 12 years old or 14 years old. But for the 2 lakh kids who come to me, the smartphone is the only access they're having to coaching classes for IIT.
So I think all of us agree on the fact that exposure should be there at a very early stage.
No.
You're saying no?
They should be, for my 2 kids, they should be exposed. For the 2 lakh people, it should be integrated.
They should be integrated.
Yeah, because they don't have their opening balance that my kids have. I think that we all have, it's an unfair world. I'm just saying that the infrastructure of opportunity is different for different kids. And so I think technology is a huge enabler. It's a huge equalizer for the 2 lakh kids who come to me for a job every month.
Okay. Sharath, I have this question. From the position where you are as chairman of Keonics and a politician, how much do you think your colleagues across the political spectrum are on board with the challenges we have ahead because of AI?
It's a really loaded question. And probably if I give a very truthful answer, I won't be able to walk out of JW Marriott after this. I'll probably have to stay here itself. But I think, like I said in the start, it's a spectrum. We've got young MLAs who are about 28, 29 years, who are very clued up about what AI is, who are very clued up about how it's developing and progressing and evolving around the world. There is also the sense that with respect to technology, it is somehow geography independent, right? The younger MLAs, whether they are in North Karnataka, coastal belt, whether in Mysore, Bangalore, are aware of what technology is happening, how it's developing, how it's evolving, and what potential impacts it could have on our society and how the state is developing and progressing. So I would say age seems to be more of a factor than geography. Age seems to be more of a factor than education. So the younger MLAs are quite clued up about, the younger lawmakers are quite clued up
This is
about.
across the political spectrum.
I would say this is broadly across this political spectrum. Typically, as you know, left-leaning would be more progressive, right-leaning would tend to be more conservative, but I think the trend which you see across the world is what you see over here, and the trend which you see with respect to various other policies are what you see with technology as well.
I have to wind up. Before that, I have a question for each of you. Could you please tell me, when it comes to Bangalore, when you keep Bangalore in mind, what is one advantage and one disadvantage? Or what is an opportunity and what is a challenge you see in Bangalore being this place where, AI can actually be, mounted over here? Aparna?
I don't see any disadvantage in Bangalore. Sorry, I'm a Bangalorean. The reason is people talk about traffic and they crib about traffic. I'm sorry, it's the same everywhere. So why are we, I think people are FOMO, where Bangalore is concerned, hence they say traffic. But recently I was just talking to another friend, or rather, I saw it on LinkedIn, where somebody was in Pune, and it took him 1.5 hours for 10 kilometers. So what are we talking about, right? So let's be practical.
So you would say there's no disadvantage when it comes to Bangalore,
so
or a challenge? I would say.
Infrastructure can be better.
Okay.
There's no doubt about it. With the metros coming in, I'm sure. But I think somewhere, if all organizations can do hybrid, it'll help. And I think the government, if they can ensure every household doesn't have more than one car or maximum two, that'll help as well. Otherwise, the number of cars on the road is just increasing day by day.
What's the opportunity or an advantage that?
Oh, there are plenty. One, of course,
One that stands out in your mind.
of course, everybody talks about the weather, but I think the kind of organizations, the kind of skill sets that you get in Bangalore, you don't get it anywhere else. So
Okay.
I think from that perspective, I would definitely say Bangalore has an advantage.
Manish, could you?
I mean, India exported more software than Saudi Arabia did oil in 2021. That was because of the digitization super cycle set off by COVID. COVID has brought digitization forward by 10 years. And software is eating the world relative to hardware. So I think Bangalore just has a unique position. It's the only city where you could hire, for a client, we hired 1,000 programmers in 1 week. I don't think there's anywhere else in the world you could do that now.
So that's the advantage. What is the challenge?
I mean, the challenge is,
Or what is one thing
Ronald
think
Coase
should
got
change?
his Nobel Prize for his insight in every solution creates a new problem. so I mean, you can view traffic as traffic, or you can view it as growth. You can view it. I think there's a lot of challenges in growing a company, just like the challenges in growing a country. That sometimes you grow above the speed limit and you have to pause a little bit and digest it. But growth is a high quality problem.
Final word, Sharath.
I think
What's the opportunity or what's the advantage that Bangalore has?
I think the advantage which Bangalore has, if you ask me, legacy is something which cannot be created over a very short time. Legacy is something which is built over years of effort. So Bangalore has the benefit of this legacy, right? So if you look at it from the early 1950s, 60s, NAL, HAL, BEL, if you go further down the road, if you look at DRDO, IISc, DRDO, ISRO, IISc, then subsequently with education being opened up and the number of engineering colleges which developed over here, I think that kind of legacy is something which cannot be created overnight. It cannot be created over a span of 5 years, 10 years. It's something which we've been very lucky as a city to inherit. This legacy of innovation, legacy of research, a legacy of technology which Bangalore has, I think will keep us in a good place for a very long time. And as Madam said, I would completely agree. Bangalore is not without its problems, but it's not unique or exclusive to Bangalore. I think this is something which we're seeing across the world, across India at least. And if you ask me, the kind of migration which Bangalore is looking at, the kind of population influx which Bangalore is looking at, this is talent from unskilled to your research and development level. Bangalore has become a magnet. So there is always a challenge which the government is going to face to catch up with the rate at which Bangalore is growing. But as Manish sir said, that's a great problem to have. So
The
this,
advantages Bangalore has is unique, and it's Bangalore's advantage. The problems it has is everywhere.
Absolutely. All across the world. Let's be honest, it's across the world.
Sure.
so the problems are, as we've all discussed, we know what the infrastructure is. If you ask me about the opportunity, what the opportunities which we have are, I think there is a move which Karnataka as a state can make. If you're talking about AI per se, and AI being, let's say, energy intensive, can Bangalore, can Karnataka, with its big pool of renewable energy, kind of emerge as a center from where you can do AI, but with renewable energy without causing damage to the environment? So it is something, AI with an ecological conscience. So I think that's somewhere which Karnataka can push with our kind of renewable energy surplus and reserves which we have. So I think this is an opportunity, this is a story which Bangalore can tell. We can be a power surplus state. We can be a state which can power AI.
Okay. Thank you very much. We've run out of time. Thank you very much for being.